Vroom.
Zoom.
Welcome back to Convincing Julia. That September 9th to November 23rd, with in between those dates, we got to go see Hamilton because Leslie Odom Jr. is reprising his role as Aaron Burr.
No, Maddie, this is an F1 podcast.
But it's Leslie Odom Jr.
Hello and welcome back to 17 to 1. My name's Julia and I know a lot about F1.
My name's Maddie and I know about 10% of F1. If you've seen our recent quiz video, I did good.
She did indeed, and she's learning so much more as we journey through this race year together. Last week, we had the race in Bahrain, and we are going to be going over who are our champions and who are our crashouts of the race weekend. Now, to recap, our champions are the people that we felt did exceptionally well, and our crashouts are the people that perhaps didn't have such a great weekend. Maddie, who would you say our top champion of the weekend was?
Zhou Guanyu.
Zhou Guanyu always is in my heart.
If we're talking about who's actually on the grid, I would have to say Oscar Piastri.
Yeah, why is that?
He's just crushing it. You know, he's out here, he's driving around. We don't realize his water system is broken until like the last 10 laps, and he's just so casually like, yeah, what if I could? Thanks, Dad. Like, so calm. If we're looking for an actual like underdog redeemer, we can go Ollie Behrman. My little bear cub.
So true. Qualified 20th, came all the way up to 10th to get a point. What a race for the kid, honestly. The only place he had to go was up, and he did go up, and I'm so proud of him.
We go up. I can definitely say I think as a whole, Bahrain was the champion because there was a lot more going on. Suzuka walked so Bahrain could crash and create drama.
So true. Talking about things happening, I would say my personal top champion of the weekend was George Russell. Literally every single thing that you could think would be going wrong with a car was going wrong with his car. His brakes were going long, and then all of a sudden they weren't anymore. He had his steering problems. He was having electronics issues. The team had to order a manual override on his DRS because it wasn't working. And then when he tried to use like the auxiliary radio button to contact them, he accidentally opened his DRS flap, which was not his fault. Nothing was going right for George Russell, but he still managed to land that P2 position. I think that's pretty great.
I thought it was funny sometimes seeing like George, and then you're like, where's George? Because obviously the cameras are going to be like not panning on him the whole time. They're going to be like, well, who's there? So then you see the little track, and George is out there on the grass, and you're just like, how did. It's like Spider-Man. Like you see George in the car, you see George over there, George's little blue dot, you're just like.
His car really decided to go ghost mode. He was like, psych bitches, I'm going off the grid. Which, it caused problems for other people too, because then like Lando behind him didn't know accurately if he was in DRS or not, because he had like wonky data coming from the car in front of him. Nobody knew where George's car was or what the distance between them was.
George's car really said, you want to play some mind games? You want to do a little twisty I got you. I got you.
I would say another champion of the weekend, even though he had his bumps, the bumps were not his fault. And that was Yuki Tsunoda, because he managed to score his first points in a Red Bull. And this was, in general, Red Bull's first, 2 points finish in a very long time. It is, the highest that the second Red Bull car has placed since last year. And not even, since the end of last year, since, I think the fall or so.
That's fair. Yeah.
It's been a long time. So, shout out to Yuki, doing the most despite everything that was working against him. Which brings us a little lovely segue into our crash outs of the weekend, where, because boy oh boy, did things go wrong at the Red Bull garage. First of all, terrible qualifying weekend for Red Bull. The qualifying session was so stressful because they were like trying out a whole bunch of stuff on Max and Yuki's cars as they were doing the qualifying. So they were like really running it down to the wire. And then neither of them qualified super well. I was just happy to see them in the top 10. I was super concerned. And then the race gets started. Max gets off to not a great start, but he does manage to, just keep on chugging. They bring him in for the pit stop. When they're going for the pit stop, right, there's like a little light system, and the light tells them that it's okay to go. It's okay to exit the pit stop. It did not turn green. It was stuck. And so the pit stop lasted like, I think, a whole second or two longer than it was supposed to. So when Max came out of the pits, he was a whole place further back than what had been predicted. And then the same exact thing happened when Yuki came in. So they had to like manually override it. And I'm like, bro, Max, whatever. You didn't know it was a problem. Yuki, you did know it was a problem. Why didn't you fix it? And then they put Max onto the hard tires, and that was absolute shit. They were terrible. And then they brought him in again to switch him off of them. And that pit stop was incredibly long too. It was like 7 seconds or something crazy like that. And it was they couldn't get like one of the wheels off. Embarrassing behavior all around. All around. Honestly, it's a miracle they both finished in the top 10.
This was all within the 45 minutes that I was not watching the race?
Yes. A lot happened.
That's insane.
Another crash out, who I fear might be a permanent resident on our list, is... Actually, there are two names I can say here. The first is Charles Leclerc, who yet again did not have a great time this weekend. He was really fighting with his pit wall. He wanted to do a one-stop strategy. They did not. They put him on different tires. He was like, fine. And then after the safety car, they put him on hard tires, which is like proven not to be a great tire to go on at that point in the race. Bad decisions all around. And if I was Charles, I would be crashing out over it. The other person that was on my mind was Liam Lawson, who I think has been an honorable mention on our crash out list for the last 4 races. I don't think he's ever not been on it. He didn't qualify super well. He was still stuck in Q1, and he picked up 15 seconds worth of penalties during this race for little scuffles, which he described. He was like, the cars are just all very close together. It's hard racing. Liam, 15 seconds worth of penalties. That's Max Verstappen levels of war crimes, okay? Take it back a notch. You need to score points. And he finished the race down in 16th still.
He's just having a hard time, bro. Can't shake off whatever's gotten him down.
Somebody out there at the end of 2024 put a curse on Liam.
Probably Checo.
Exactly. He would have cause. I wouldn't blame him.
Before I go into my big crash out, I have another small mini crash out, and that would be George when they switched him to his soft tires, because he did not like that. But what I liked was Lando jumping in, being like, why? They're great! Lando really enjoyed that. Therefore, it's a crash out for George, even though he did well, and a championship for Lando. My biggest crash out, though, is Carlos Sainz. Man cannot catch a break. He has been roughing it, I believe, as well, since the races have started.
I agree. And he qualified so well last weekend. He was doing a great job. They had such high hopes. And they were all dashed. I do want to say, because I've seen some discussion as to why Yuki did not get a penalty for that incident. And the thing is, it wasn't ruled to be Yuki's fault. And even Carlos said that it was just a racing incident. They just got a little close together. Nobody was at fault, and that's why there was no penalty applied. Is it unfortunate that he had to retire his car? Yes.
Yeah, at least he didn't get fined 2,000 euros for having to go to the bathroom, though.
Small mercies. Small mercies. Let us know who you think the champions in the crash outs of last weekend were, and see you after Saudi Arabia. Bye.